Start recording, and we're recording. Jim, Britt, I appreciate you being here. Peak performance strategist. I've been following you for about 2 years, I think, on Facebook. Appreciate you joining me today, Jim.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love this my podcast. I do it once a week, and so having you as a guest, I was all excited about this. And Jim, I looked into you. You're a pretty good author. You've got like 15 best-selling books. I mean, you've got it going on.
Yeah, I got 15 of my own, and I have another series of collaborative type books with 12 volumes and another one with 20 volumes. So, yeah, I've been
Yeah,
busy.
yeah. I saw the Cracking the Code program, and I did watch that video. And the most powerful word is yes to opportunity, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was for me too when I started as an entrepreneur, 1987. I was official, but that's another whole story. So Jim, I've got a handful of questions. I know you're a busy guy and stuff, and I'm honored to have you on the Fighting Networker. I've got a lineup of 50, 60 people that I'm targeting, and you were on that list. And so
All right.
thanks for supporting me.
My
And
pleasure.
so yeah, and so you know, Jim, you have an incredible personal transformation story. I mean, from being a janitor to becoming a successful entrepreneur and speaker and author. Could you share some pivotal moments or insights from your journey that shaped your approach to life in business? Could you do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't a janitor, but I did when I worked in the pumping gas. I did sweep the concrete every day. The guy I worked for made sure that there was not a speck of dust on that concrete, and I was the one responsible for taking it off. So I pumped gas for a while. I picked cotton before that. That was my first job when from about 6 years old to 12, and got married at 18, had my first child at 19, graduated from the pumping gas to a factory working on an assembly line. I thought that was my dream job. Found out it wasn't, uh, but it got me out of the weather anyway inside. And got invited to a meeting one night, and it changed my whole life. And uh, it was a direct sales company, and I'd never been exposed to anything like that. And the fellow that invited me, he just said, go to this meeting with me so we can make some extra money. And I said, what is it? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, I'm not your guy. And he said, oh, they told me to bring somebody with me. And I said, no, I'm not your guy. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you go with me, he said, I'll buy the beer afterwards. I said, what time's the meeting? So I went for the beer, literally. And but the meeting unfolded, and I'm going, wow, this is amazing, man. I can do this. I just kept telling myself I can do this. And by the end of the evening, I said, I'm going to get rich doing it. And I didn't know what rich was, more than money than I was making at the time, I guess. Um, so long story short, it cost $4,000 to get started in that business,
Gee
and
whiz.
I had $9. And I didn't know anybody that had more money than I did. And my $9 be gone by Friday. And I went to 23 banks and loan companies before I got the money. The last one loaned it to me. I think it was maybe 50% interest or something. It might have been mafia. I have no idea. But all I cared was I'm in the business. And and the one fellow that trained me, he said, your job is talking to people. He said, if you talk a little, you learn a little. If you talk a lot, you learn a lot. I said, how much is a lot? And he said, 10 a day. I said, that's what I'll do. Of course, we didn't have internet or anything. So I went in the next day, gave notice, one week notice at my job, quit my job, and started talking to 10 people every day. And I did that for a year. And at the end of a year, I think I'd made one sale
Oh my gosh.
and recruited nobody into my business. And actually, I did recruit one person, and but I was broke. And what changed everything for me, I'm standing in my kitchen a year later, looking out the window. Um, I've got a wife and a child. Both of my vehicles have been repoed. I had a notice on my door from the sheriff saying you got to be out in 5 days. My home had been foreclosed. All of my furniture had been taken, except for a few little sticks. So it wasn't going to be hard to move. I had no place to go, no money. And I reached in my pocket and I had 15 cents. And I thought, what am I going to do? I thought maybe I'll just go back to the factory. I know they'll hire me back. That lasted for about 15 seconds. I said, nope, I'm not gonna retreat. And long story short, over the next 5 days from me living on the street, it was like a series of miracles took place. Somebody came by that worked with the company, taught me what I was doing wrong, what I needed to be doing, how to ask questions, how to listen, how to find out more about people before I just opened my mouth and started talking. Plus, I needed money for food, so I picked up a 5-gallon container of carpet shampoo that I'd sold. That one customer I'd sold it to was a big builder in Oklahoma City where I lived. And I carried that for 3 miles in the Oklahoma heat because I didn't have a car to drive. And he bought it, which gave me about 20 bucks and some money to be able to buy food for the family. Still didn't know where I was going to go. But he offered me an opportunity, and I don't have time to go into the details, but it's an incredible opportunity that furnished me with $300 a week, a car to drive, a 3-bedroom furnished apartment, and an opportunity that over the next 12 months made me over $500,000.
Wow.
And my other business took off as well. So it's by the end of my first year, I was almost a millionaire. My second year, not my first year. My first year, I was dead broke with 15 cents. So what that taught me is that, number one, everybody's not going to say yes. I just simply had 3,650 people that told me no. But so people say, how do you handle rejection? I said, I did that way back. I don't have to do that anymore. So but it taught me that if you've got something that's real and it's working and you see other people making it work, don't give up. Keep moving forward.
That's right.
I mean, don't do what I did and have to live totally broke. But man, if you're part-time, full-time, whatever it is you're doing in a business, keep moving forward. Take action daily. There's so many people out there think they're getting ready to get going, or they're waiting on something else before they get going. All that is an excuse. It's fear-based, and they're just afraid to move forward. And you got to just take a step forward and keep going.
Yeah, no doubt. Jim, of course, that mindset is a cornerstone of success. And as a renowned peak performance strategist, and what are some practical steps that individuals can take to kind of rewire their mindset, especially when they're faced with challenges?
Well, so many people, I think, they set goals. They got vision boards. Personally, I don't do that. I don't set goals. I don't write them down. I don't have a vision board. I don't need to write stuff down because I remember it when I say I'm going to do something. What's missing for most people, that mindset is created by the decision that you've made. And goals to me are kind of out there. I'm going to do it by then. The decision is now. The decision to do that by then is now. That's the foundation for the mindset. And a mindset determines how you show up to the world. And it also determines how the world shows up to support you in your endeavor. Because, if you don't, let's say you want to become a millionaire. Well, which comes first, the feeling of being a millionaire or being a millionaire and getting the feeling? Mm-hmm. And what comes first is you have to first see yourself and feel yourself as a millionaire before you're ever going to see the opportunities to take you there. It's just not going to show up in your views. So mindset is so important. But I would say really look at the decisions you make. And if you look at a decision as a complete circle, as an example, most people leave a little opening in that circle. just in case it doesn't work. That's their excuse. You can't have that. You can't have that if you want to get ahead in life. If you want to become a successful entrepreneur in any business endeavor, you've got to close the gap. It's got to be 100% and
Yeah.
and continue to move.
Yeah. No turning back. I'm going to the top of the mountain. Do or die. I'm going to get there. Right, Jim?
That's right. That's right. And it's not always easy. I mean, you're going to be faced with challenges. I mean, you've got a desire to move. You've got a desire to have something better. You make a decision to do that that doesn't allow for anything less. And then you've got to be bold. I mean, you've got to take bold action. You've got to put yourself in the spotlight. Don't wait for the spotlight to find you. Go take center stage and put yourself in that spotlight and do what you know has to be done to get the job done.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what needs to be done, find somebody that can help you to figure out what needs to be done, a coach or whatever.
Yeah, great advice. I know this for a fact because I've studied you. You emphasize the importance of collaboration a lot in networking. In your experience, Jim, how can entrepreneurs effectively build relationships and leverage their network to create opportunities for growth?
Well, I can tell you what I did when Jim Rohn and I formed a business partnership way back. And I promoted Jim Rohn, and then I started speaking. And nobody knew who I was. I mean, nobody knew who Jim Rohn was back then either, but certainly nobody knew who I was. And so I got the idea that I needed to go meet all of the top speakers in the country. So I would fly anywhere. I flew to Dallas to have lunch with Zig Ziglar. Eventually, Zig and I did a few seminars together. I flew to New York along with Dennis Waitley. Dennis invited me to go to New York to a Nightingale Conant meeting. I had no idea what it was about or who Nightingale Conant was. What I didn't realize is that not only was Dennis there, but there was Og Mandino and Brian Tracy and Tom Hopkins and various other people there that I met and got to know and got on stages with. And that's kind of how I branded myself and connected with these top people and learned what they were doing versus trying to reinvent the wheel. And of course, what I found was they wanted to know what I was doing as well, because we were putting thousands of people through events every month. And I think I'm the first one to ever sell a ticket to an event like that, to a personal development event and Jim Rohn was the guy. And so they wanted to know. Mark Victor Hansen used to stand at our door in Orange County, California, and every week we'd have 1,000 people in the hotel. He'd come in and he'd go, "How are you putting all these people in the room, man? He said, I can't believe it. Every week you've got these people." So yeah, it was fun. But so you get to know these people, and they're all, if they're still around, they're all friends of mine today.
Oh, wow.
Earl
This
Nightingale
was,
was there. I did seminars with Earl Nightingale, Og Mandino, Brian Tracy. Brian's still a good close friend of mine. Dennis Waitley. We did a lot of programs together. Tom Hopkins. So it's all. It's been an incredible journey, but I think connect with people. And what I found is that people are always willing to talk. They're always willing to share. They're probably the hardest part is getting through to somebody sometimes. But if you can, successful people. I think people that are struggling financially, they're afraid of competition. Successful people collaborate. They're
wow.
willing to share with one another. They don't look at competition. Who's my competition? And I always said, I don't have any competition. It's all competing with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got
Well,
to feel
that's
like
awesome.
you're the best one out there.
Oh, absolutely. It's just hard for me to comprehend what you just said and the people that you've hung with and talked with. I mean, I had the experience with one of those guys who changed my life. You know the story, Jim Rohn. He was
Yeah.
like, he said to me, and this was one of the most important, most exciting days of my life because I got into network marketing, and that's where I met Jim Rohn. And
Yeah.
today it seems like he's still a living legend. He's a legend. But he said to me, and I only knew him for about a year up to this point, and he said, "Jack, I want you to think of me as your personal counselor." And he gave me his cell phone, and Jim, I'll tell you that I knew I was going places. You know what I mean? I was on track.
Yeah, I miss calling Jim, and just you know, his voice on the other end was um, leave me a message. That was it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
Jim. You
deep
sounded
voice.
just
But
yeah,
we used
that's fun.
to, you know, I'd call him up and have a chat with him or have dinner or something like that. It was just I miss that. But
Yeah.
we were together for about, I don't know, close to 8 years.
And he was like he is on stage and in everything else. He was like that in person too. Jim
Pretty
was
much,
Jim.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. I mean, one time we were at a leadership retreat, and we had about 80 people there, and we're staying in the, I guess you'd call it the ranch house, and it was just Jim and I believe, and everybody else was in the bunkhouse, and so I'm sitting in the living room having a glass of wine, and Jim walks back off into the bedroom, and he comes back out with just his underwear on, and I'm going, hey, he's just like me. So it just kind of stripped everything away, you know, like, oh, well,
That's a riot.
yeah, it
That
was
is funny.
pretty funny. So I, you know, I know a lot of stories about Jim Rohn that probably a lot of people don't know, you know,
Oh,
so
of course, of
I was
course.
around him for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are real humans.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to be if you're gonna connect with people and really help them.
That's right. A couple more and then we're good. I appreciate you being here, like I've said. But the power of habits, and I know you're big on this. Habits play a significant role, in our lives. What are some of the key rituals, things that you do that you think contributed to you having great habits and helped you with focus and success? What was that?
Well, you know, habit patterns they start with our programming. We all get programmed, you know, starting with our parents, of course, teaching us to walk and talk and the basics of protecting us, how to swim and cross the street, things like that. And we learn how to drive a car. And but we over the years we develop literally probably hundreds of habit patterns that become second nature. Quite frankly, be hard to live our lives without it, you know. And I thought back then, I thought, you know, those must be stored like right at the surface of your subconscious because you don't have to think about them to access them. And that's the way habits are. You know, when they become a habit, you don't think about it. You just
Mm-hmm.
do what you do. You know, you don't think about when you get in your car, how do I drive this thing? Or when you go out to the pool, can I still swim? You don't think about those things. But those are the positive side. We also have negative habits. Those become second nature. And the thing that I've learned over the years is that to develop the positive ones and get rid of the negative ones, because those are the ones that's going to keep you away from what you want in your life. And it requires a skill set called self observation, not self awareness. Self awareness tells you you have the problem, it doesn't give you a solution for it. It tells you you're struggling financially and you have all your life, or you're in your fifth abusive relationship or something. Um, that you see the problem, but you don't see the solution. So every action you take is going to move you. Well, I should say, once you decide what you want in your life, from that point forward, in any area of your life, from that point forward, the actions you take are going to move you toward that or away from it. It's that simple. Success at anything is that simple. The phone rings, or you're supposed to do a follow-up call, and you pick up the phone, and the fear of rejection gets you, and you hang up the phone. You just honored your fear instead of your choice to move forward in the direction you want to go. And it's that act of self-observation, saying, is this action I'm about to take taking me where I want to go or away from it? And that to me is the most important thing that anybody can do once they've decided what they want. Continue to observe yourself, take responsibility for what you're doing. Don't honor your fears, move in the direction you want to go, not away from it. And it's so easy to get caught up in moving away from it and justify it as some type of excuse, but that's all it is. It's fear grabbing you and moving. But Jim Rohn used to say it's moving you forward with your feet in the air, plowing deep furrows in the ground. Good visual, right?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's and that's a habit pattern. I mean, I started that about 35 years ago, observing myself like that, and it becomes a habit pattern to the point where as soon as you catch yourself quickly doing something that's not going to take you where you want to go, you stop and you say, "Wait a minute, I don't want to go in that direction." But we get caught up in the stuff. Like my brother-in-law called me one time, and he's in the middle of traffic in LA, and he's ranting about the traffic, and it's terrible traffic, and I'm late for an appointment and all this stuff. I said, Patrick, I said, where are you right now? He said, I'm in the damn traffic. I said, sounds like you're part of the problem. He went silent and he goes, I never really thought about that. I said, so you thought it was just you and all the traffic bothering you? We become part of the problem. We are the problem, actually,
Yeah. Yeah. For
and we are the solution as well.
Yeah.
So I know we probably don't have a lot of time, but there's one other thing I'd like to share. And this is so powerful, I think. And I think most people will get it. And if you apply it, you won't believe the results you're going to produce for yourself. Um, a friend of mine and I, this has probably been close to 30 some years ago. I don't know exactly, but we used to read some of the same books, and then we'd call each other and kind of converse a little bit about what we just read. And he called me one day and he said, hey, could you look on page 88? We're reading a book called The Impersonal Life, and very, very in-depth book. It was written almost like to you, from you. It was no author. And so he said, could you read that page real quick and let's discuss it? We spent like an hour and a half discussing that one page. And before we hang up, he goes, Jim, what do you think the word resourceful means? I said, man, I don't know. I guess maybe using your imagination or be more productive. I said, I don't know why. He said, well, it's just an interesting word. And I said, I guess so. That was it. So a few hours later, I'm driving home, and what's ringing in my head is the word resourceful. I could not stop thinking about it. And so I get home, and it was before we had the internet. So I go to the dictionary and look up the word resourceful. And the definition was once again full of source. And I thought,
Wow.
I said, that's interesting, depending on what you think source is. And then I looked up the keyword source, and it was defined as where all things originate, not
Wow.
some things, all things. And I thought, wow, that's really powerful. Again, depending on what you think source is. And so I was a little bit obsessed with that for about a year and a half or so. And I kept looking for another definition of source. So I'd go to bookstores and buy books, and I'd go look in their dictionaries and different versions and origin of words. I couldn't find anything. So I was over in England in a little town called Chester. I was doing an event, and I was out one afternoon taking a walk, and I see a sign on the back of a building. It said antique books. I thought, oh, I love old books. So I walked in the back door, and the first thing I see was a dictionary about this thick, old and tattered. I wished I'd looked up the date. I don't know when it was published, but it was thick, probably close to a foot. And it had a sign that said, do not open. And I thought that was for people in the UK, not for me. So I guess I was prepared to buy the book. I don't know. But so I carefully opened to the S's, and I looked through and I found the word source. And it had some of the same things I'd seen before, but one definition popped out at me: love. It said source, love. Source is defined as love. And I'm going, wow.
Wow.
And I thought about that for a little bit. And I thought,
Wow.
how can you apply that to your life? And I thought, well, or to your business even, or
Sure.
anything. I thought, well, when we started something new, just like the first business I got into, or when Jim Rohn and I partnered up, I fell in love with that. I fell in love with that.
Right.
And when you fall in love with something, it creates passion. And passion is necessary to move you forward. It's like the flame that keeps you going. It's based in love and passion for what you're doing. And over time, people lose their passion sometimes.
Right.
Through trial and error, missing things, using excuses, letting fear run their life, things like that, and their passion starts to dwindle. But if you keep that passion and you fall in love with something, that's where you create it. Then I thought, well, I think there's a flaw in this. I thought, they say that there's two emotions that you experience in life, love or fear. And I thought about that for a while, and I thought, well, if everything originates in love, where does fear come from?
There is no fear.
And I thought about it for a little bit, probably 15, 20 minutes, and I got, oh man, I got it. You fall in love with fear.
I love
You
it.
create it. You have a passion for what you fear. Fear is not real. You
That's
make it up
powerful.
in your mind.
Sure.
It's something you've created and got a passion for, and you're going to use that as an excuse for not moving forward and doing what you want to do in your life.
Very good.
And somebody one day challenged me and they said, well, what if a lion or a bear or something is chasing you through the woods? Isn't that real fear? I'm going, nope, you made it up. You don't know what it's going to do when it catches you. It may lick you. I said, I'd probably run too, but still, we're making it up in our mind of what's going to happen. It's like you stand on looking out a tall window. I was in the highest building in Dubai, like a half a mile high, and I'm looking down and I'm going, wow, that is scary to think if you jumped out that window, it's a half a mile down, but we create this stuff in our mind. So about a year after that, I was in Toronto doing an event with another fella. We were out for a walk and we kind of went out a little bit too far and we're rushing to get back because the event was about to start. And so I'm 6'4" and he was probably 6'2", and we're walking pretty fast. We both got long legs. And all of a sudden I feel this presence right over my shoulder. I mean, it felt like this guy was walking in step with me and I could actually smell him. And I was about to turn around and go, hey, buddy, could you just back off just a little bit? But just as I started to turn around, he said, and God created woman or man, and God created man. And another voice coming from him said, well, I know that. He said, but then God created woman. And the other voice said, yeah, I know that too. So he's got this split personality going on. And then he says, well, then God created fruit. And the other voice said, well, what does fruit have to do with anything? He said, well, inside the fruit, there's a seed. And he said, if you plant it, it will grow. And he said, if you don't, it won't. And then the guy turned right and went across the street the other direction. And I thought, that is so cool. So what happens when you plant a seed in a garden? You plant it, you cover it with dirt, you nourish it, you water it, you feed it whatever it needs, the nutrients it needs to grow, and it grows whatever it is that you planted. You're not going to plant a peach seed and come out with with an apple or anything like that. So what you plant will grow. And I took that back and I thought, wow, if you plant your idea, if you plant your decision in love and fall in love with that decision and nourish it by keeping in your garden, you keep the weeds out. Well, in life, you keep the mental weeds out, the things that throw you off course. That's where self-observation comes in. So my suggestion, fall in love with whatever it is you want. And if you feel fear coming on, realize that you created it and you're afraid of your own thoughts, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, no, Jim, that's really awesome. We're a little over, but I have to ask you because you also put a lot of emphasis on the concept of leaving a legacy. Can you talk about that just for a minute to the entrepreneurs and you know, how leaving a legacy and being a successful entrepreneur is such an important thing.
Well, entrepreneurs change the world. They always have, and they always will. I totally believe that. I'm an entrepreneur. I've launched 28 of my own businesses over the years,
Wow.
and a couple of them didn't make it, but most of them did. And I just, you know, your legacy, you're leaving a legacy no matter what you do. It's what is that legacy? And I think we need to all be in tune with something that we can leave that will continue when we're gone. You know, what can you do that will continue? And we have things that you know, whether it's raising children or writing a book or whatever, you can leave that legacy that will continue. And I think we all should be looking to how do we make the world a better place, and leave a legacy that will do that long term. That's why I keep cranking out books and things. I mean, I never thought I could ever write a book, and now I'm on number 16 now. So
That's
it's
great.
kind
That's
of
great.
weird.
That is awesome. Jim, do you have anything you'd like to plug or any sites you'd like to send people to? What do you have on the stove cooking? Anything for people?
Well, the one thing I've got is I've got a book series, a collaboration that I'm doing with Kevin Harrington from the TV show Shark Tank that Tony Robbins has endorsed.
Yep.
I'm on my 12th volume of that. There's 20 co-authors in each book. Your picture's on the front cover with Kevin, myself, and Tony. It's a great calling card. It's a great credibility thing for people starting out new in business. It's a book you can sell, you know, make a nice profit. And we also have a mastermind session for all of our co-authors. It's in that series, which is absolutely phenomenal. We do it monthly, and we bring in you know, top name speakers. We had Brian Tracy, we had Dennis Waitley, we've had Les Brown, we've had Mark Victor Hansen from Chicken Soup, and many others that we bring in once a month to kind of share and give some ideas to our co-authors on how to further their businesses. And so I've got that going on, and I'm getting ready to launch that book is called Cracking the Rich Code,
Yeah, I
how
saw.
to be rich in any area of your life. But I'm getting ready to launch a special edition of it for millionaires only. So it'll only be millionaires in the book, which is going to be pretty cool. I'm
Very,
just in the
very
next
cool.
couple. Yeah. So
Is
I'm
there?
doing that. Then if anybody has a problem, well, if they want to see an overview of it, just go to becomeacoauthor.com. And then if you have a problem with money, it's the relationship is the problem that we have with money. And I have a program called Cracking the Rich Code, which is a 4-month online coaching program, and it's at crackingtherichcode.com. And it's
Okay.
targeted to overcome your to improve your relationship with money, basically.
Sure, sure. Yeah, we'll make sure we get that up in the description when we post this up. And Jim,
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for being here. I know you grew up in it was in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well,
and,
I grew up
and
in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City was the last place I lived, but I lived all over the state. Yeah.
I see. And now you're
Yeah.
living in California.
I'm in California, about halfway between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe and the foothills. So yeah, nice area up here.
Very nice. Very nice. I appreciate you being here, and we'll get this posted up. We'll get your copy of the link once it's running. Jim,
All
Britt,
right.
thank you so much. And this talk is officially over.
All right. Thanks so much, Jack.